Great. I think we'll get started then. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Benjamin Hosack. I'm one of the founders of Foregenix, and today I'm going to talk you through Magento 1's imminent end of life and how to avoid having your website hacked. And the aim of this short webinar is to provide the industry, you people who've attended today, with the latest intelligence on threats that we're seeing, in particular with a focus on Magento 1. So I'll be talking about the current risk landscape, basically what we're seeing out there through our global security monitoring of over 8 million websites. I'll then focus on Magento 1 to help you to understand the threat for Magento 1 websites. We'll touch on how websites become vulnerable and then get breached. And we'll wrap up with suggestions on how to mitigate your risk while your website remains on Magento 1. And if you have any questions in the meantime, please could you send them through, and we'll cover them off at the end of the webinar during the Q&A session. Drop those questions through to us in the Q&A area on the Zoom chat, and we'll cover them off at the end. So let's get started. So for those of you who don't know who we are, Foregenix is a cybersecurity business with a very strong focus on the payment card industry. Our team is global, and we support a diverse global client base. Now, before we get into the detail of the webinar, I want to draw your attention to the visa announcement that came out earlier this year on Magento 1. So support for Magento 1 ends on the 30th of June 2020, tomorrow basically. And we believe that this is going to present the industry with a significant level of risk that is perhaps less well quantified or understood. And I'll dig into this over the next couple of slides. So what is WebScan? WebScan is technology that we've developed off the back of many years of forensic work, helping out a considerable number of hacked e-commerce websites to secure their online businesses and to get back on their feet after a breach. Basically, every single new bit of malware that we detect, every new what we call indicator of compromise that we find is put into our scanner database so that we can detect it at scale around the world. Now, the key thing to know at this point is that our scanner is no more intrusive than a regular visitor visiting the website. All we're doing is searching for those very, very specific bits of information to understand if the site is healthy or if it's sick, if the site's already been hacked, what platform it's on, whether it's been set up correctly, or if it's missing critical security patches. And then what we do is we roll all that information together and we give the site a risk score and a risk category. Now, there are a number of different risk categories that we use. And for the purposes of this webinar, the most important to focus on are high and critical. So we see these two categories as the problem zone in the industry. High risk means that there are serious security issues with the website. Perhaps it's missing critical security patches, or it's been set up with all the default settings in place, like the admin page being really easy to find and so on. High risk websites don't appear to be hacked yet, but with the focus of a reasonably skilled criminal, they could be broken into within 30 minutes on average. Critical risk, on the other hand, means that the site is hacked. It's hacked right now, and it's losing payment card data at this very moment. So let's get into the global scan results. So in our universe scan last month, we checked the security of 8.4 million websites. And we've been monitoring the security posture of many of these websites over the last couple of years. So we're able to track and monitor early stage trends as they develop through to full-blown industry-level attacks on a large scale. The most important point on this slide is that out of the 8.4 million websites that we monitor, just over 218,000 of them are Magento 1 sites. And the number in the brackets on the right of the Magento 1 number indicates the drop in the number of Magento 1 websites since the previous month's security check. So we know that 2,576 websites that were on Magento 1 last month in May are no longer on Magento 1 now. We haven't compiled the analysis to work out exactly which platforms all those sites have moved on to, but further down you can see that Magento 2 has increased by 1,334. So we can assume that quite a few have upgraded there. Now, if we look at the data set from a slightly different perspective, we can see the size of the problem in the industry right now, at this moment, this is made up from the high and the critical risk websites. Now, looking at the data set from a risk perspective, at roughly 8.5% of the data set, the high and critical risk websites are the issue that we need to grapple with today. And looking at the actual numbers, there are 24,000 more high-risk websites in our May scan compared with April, and 248 more hacked sites. As a percentage of the portfolio, this number is really small, but the implications for each one of those websites is very serious and potentially could end up with those businesses having to close. So let's take a dive into the critical risk websites. There are currently 3,166 critical websites in our data set. And remember that these sites are hacked. They're hacked and their customer data is being stolen right now from them, transaction by transaction. And their liabilities are growing right now, transaction by transaction. Now, similar to the last couple of months, Magento 1 websites remain a really hot target for criminals. And you can see that the numbers of Magento 1 sites that have been compromised are massively higher than anything else on the list. And the interesting fact here is that they make up around about 3% of our website database. And they make up 64% of the hacked websites. Let's think about that for a second. 3% of our website database makes up 64% of the hacked websites that we detect. So simply going on that statistic would, it's a very strong indicator that Magento 1 sites are being targeted. But I'll take you a bit further into the Magento 1 details shortly to expand on this. Another interesting find is the type of malware that is being used to steal this data. Now, if you have a look at the bar chart on the right, skimmers make up the vast majority of the malware that we're seeing. And this is a catch-all for things like mage cards and the many other derivatives of the malicious JavaScript code that we're seeing out there. Loaders could also be added to the skimmer family since they're simply loading skimming code from another malicious domain or hacked website. So when you take skimmers and loaders together and consider them related, effectively they're doing the same type of compromise and theft of data. We're talking about over 90% of the malware that we're detecting being skimmers, or skimmer code. So that's huge. And if you compare this over the last couple of months, the numbers have been growing. So skimmers are up over 300 websites in the last 2 months. And the percentages are consistently above 90%. So above 90% of all of the hack sites have skimmers. So this is the security threat that e-commerce businesses are having to mitigate at the moment, whether they know it or not. Now, the funny thing is, when I was putting this all together, we as humans, I was considering this, we as humans are all very similar in our beliefs that while bad stuff happens in the world, it's not going to happen to us. And unfortunately, this is also how a lot of businesses view risk. They think it's not going to happen to them. And when it does, it can be absolutely devastating. In fact, Inc. magazine published findings that 60% of small to medium businesses that experienced a data breach were closed within 6 months following the breach. Now, with the card brands positioned on Magento 1 sites, the stakes have simply got higher. If your business gets hacked, you will find that they'll throw the book at you. And that could potentially mean expensive liabilities, legal issues, and of course, forensic investigation costs. I mentioned that websites in the high-risk category are generally really straightforward to hack. It would take, on average, half an hour for a reasonably skilled attacker to hack into them. And the reason why I wanted to show you these numbers is because we have 206,021 Magento 1 websites in this category. Now, that's down from 208,000 last month. So this is positive. This is a positive sign that Magento 1 sites are starting to migrate. But unfortunately, the numbers are really low. And a considerable amount needs to be done to actually get the migration moving. Now, if your website's built in Magento 1, this is the slide that's been put together for you. It's there to help you understand the risk to your business. The important point to note here is that we've got over 218,000 Magento 1 sites in our data set, 218,722 to be exact. So I'd estimate that we're monitoring probably quite close to the full complement of Magento 1 sites on the internet. There can't be too many more. So if that estimation is correct, 95% of all Magento 1 websites on the internet are considered high or critical risk. based on the definition I gave you a bit earlier. So Magento 1 sites also make up 64% of all of the hacked sites that we've detected in the last 30 days. And we believe, based on our background, our forensic background, our threat intel capabilities, we believe we've got the most comprehensive capability in the industry for detecting sites that have been hacked with card skimming malware on them. So these numbers are accurate and they're serious. You know, there's no doubt that Magento 1 is the most targeted platform on the internet at the moment, most targeted e-com platform on the internet at the moment. So considering that only around 1% of the global Magento 1 sites migrated last month, I'd say that as an industry, it'll be quite some time before we see the majority of these sites having migrated to a new secure platform. So what does the end of life mean? Well, it means that Magento will not be supporting the platform anymore. There'll be no more updates and no more security patches. It also means that any site using Magento 1 will be deemed non-compliant with PCI DSS, which basically gives Visa the ability to throw the book at any merchants who get hacked and lose payment card data while their website's on Magento 1. There is the potential to use compensating controls to achieve PCI compliance. However, that usually requires engaging a qualified security assessor to check that the control is adequate and able to be used as a compensating control. So it's not a straightforward get out of jail card, should we say. And essentially what I'm trying to get across here is that business is going to become a lot more risky if your e-commerce website is built on Magento 1. So how does a website become vulnerable to hackers? For those of you who are less familiar with website security, I'll summarize very quickly how an e-com site becomes vulnerable. The first mistake that the industry often makes is to assume that the merchant understands cybersecurity. Most people who have an e-commerce site do not understand security, and neither do their developers. So a great deal of e-com sites are at a disadvantage right from the start, purely because they lack access to the right skills and knowledge to defend their business. A lot of the hack sites that we help have fallen victim due to basic cyber hygiene or housekeeping issues. I say basic, and I know that I'm simplifying it quite a bit, but essentially by not keeping the site up to date with software patches, by not having good security hygiene when the site was originally set up, the websites either start life vulnerable or they slowly become vulnerable, and they're easy to break into. And lastly, it's very rare for us to find any proactive security in place at all. So proactive security for a website would include malware monitoring, an advanced web application firewall, two-factor authentication. There are a bunch more of examples that I could give, but those three examples are probably amongst the most or more important. So if you're on Magento 1, what can you do to protect your business? Well, a big part of the problem is simply understanding and acknowledging the risk. Most businesses simply do not realize that they are running a risk with their website. They're generally focused on how to improve sales, cut costs, and improve their bottom line. Very few have considered security as a priority item on their daily to-do list. And frankly speaking, we believe that security and risk management are largely not really considered by the majority of online businesses, unfortunately. So we believe that understanding the risk is the key, it's a key step in the right direction. And once the risk is understood, it then becomes an important piece of the puzzle. And I've learned quite a bit in my journey of educating Magento 1 websites on security. And please bear in mind that I've approached this almost entirely from a security and risk perspective. So I've also had to adjust my view somewhat. So I've educated myself better to better understand the website owner's perspective. And most of the important things, or not most of the important things, I'd say probably one of the most important things that I've learned is that migrating off a platform is not as simple as it may sound, and it's certainly not risk-free. And I've learned this through speaking with a large number of merchants. Some of them understand the risk of staying with Magento 1, but most don't. But even when they do, the migration is such a major process and can cause such damage to a business if it's not done well. An area that I hadn't considered, which has turned out to be quite a critical part of the process, is search engine optimization. So most e-com businesses have to invest heavily in SEO to maintain their position on search engines. And given the audience that's attending today, you're all very much aware of how much you're probably spending or how much your clients are spending. And we're talking tens of thousands of pounds a year, probably quite a lot more for more competitive sites. Now, if the migration is rushed and the developers don't pay close attention to the detail, all of that investment to gain high ranking positions for search could be lost in a heartbeat. So it could be a very, very expensive process with really severe consequences on the business if it's not done well. And this is just one of the examples, one of the more sort of complex examples involved in migrating. There are quite a few others too. We all know that COVID-19 has had a massive impact on the economy globally. Most businesses are finding it very tough going at the moment. There are a fortunate few that are doing well, but pretty much most businesses are not. And they'll certainly be taking this downturn into strong consideration when debating whether to upgrade now or to hold on for a bit longer. So thinking this through, the situation facing most Magento 1 websites is extremely challenging. Most of you will know that the end of life is approaching. You'll have heard from your developers and you'll probably have read countless articles on the end of life, but you'll be trying to work out the best way to handle this for your business. Now, you'll be taking all the things that you consider important into the equation to make the decision. Excuse me. So with this in mind, we believe that we're going to be seeing Magento 1 websites sticking around for quite a while longer. So assuming that you're going to be on Magento 1 for quite a while longer, how do you actually manage your risk? Well, this is where our experience can come in handy for you. There are two very important things that you can do right now to mitigate your risk of getting hacked and having huge problems. These are ensure and secure. The first one, ensure. Well, very, very few sites that we assist from a forensic perspective, excuse me, after they've been hacked and suspected of having their customer data stolen, very few have any insurance to help cushion the financial blow of a data breach. Given what the card brands have said about their position on Magento 1 websites, I can only very strongly advise you to get your cyber insurance in place as quickly as possible. In fact, you should have this in place regardless of which platform you built your business on. You know, as you upgrade and migrate, insurance is critical. But with your site being built on Magento 1 right now, this makes insurance even more important because we know that Magento 1 sites, most Magento 1 sites are vulnerable right now. And we know that Magento 1 sites are being targeted by criminals. So please get your insurance in place. The second one is secure. Security is hugely important and even more so for vulnerable Magento 1 sites. If you visit our blog, you'll find articles on how to secure your site. But on top of having good cybersecurity hygiene, you most certainly should have security monitoring on your website. Proactive, comprehensive security is better. And if you take a look at our Foregenix-Web solution, our protect tiers are recommended. However, if you're new to this concept of security for your website, our entry-level Foregenix-Web Lite, which normally costs about £20 a month, will scan your website daily using the most comprehensive threat detection capability available. It'll basically tell you if your site's showing signs of being vulnerable or indeed hacked. It comes with a warranty too, so this will help cover some costs if you do get breached. In fact, if you visit foregenix.com/Magento1, you'll be able to take advantage of our solution for free for 2 months. And this may be enough for you while you work out your plans to migrate. It also performs really well on Magento 2 sites. So if you wish to continue using it after the 2 free months, then it's available at a reduced cost. So in summary, without running through all the stats again, while your business is on Magento 1, your business risk profile will increase. And it's already increased a lot and it will continue to increase as time goes on. So please make your plans to migrate. In the meantime, focus on ensuring your business and securing your business. Thank you very much for your time today, and please excuse my dry throat. Hopefully there are a couple of questions that I can help you with.
Yep. Hi there. Thank you for everyone who has sent your questions through so far. You can keep popping them into the Q&A box and we'll answer those as well. So the first question that we've had through is, how does your breach protection warranty work?
Yeah, that's a good question. Basically, if you get breached while you're a client of our Foregenix-Web solution, you need to let us know immediately. And in fact, in all likelihood, we will probably know that you've been breached too, especially if you're on our alert or protect packages, because those are managed services. What we do is we call our insurance company, they assess the situation, provided the terms are all met, they then pay out to cover costs and up to the value of the warranty. It's very straightforward. I think we're the only security business operating in this space who provide this kind of warranty on our products. And it's only been used once in the last couple of years when a client was hacked through a brand new 0-day. Basically, this was an attack that hadn't been seen in the wild before. Needless to say, as soon as we picked up the threat from the client, we immediately updated our detection capability, and basically our entire customer base was protected within an hour. But this client had lost some transaction data, and they had to go through a forensic investigation. But the insurance policy that we have, which enables us to provide the warranty, paid out immediately, no questions asked. It was fantastic. It worked really well, and fortunately, it hasn't been needed as much alongside our technology, but it's a really great safety net for when something unusual happens. So in summary, it's super easy to use. You just let us know as soon as you know that there's been a problem, and basically the insurance company has got behind us and supported the client who has been breached like that. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yep, Brill, thank you. Next thing we have is from an anonymous attendee. I think we lack the security skills in our business. Can you share any tips or advice to help us out?
Yeah, I think you're probably in the majority out there. Most organizations don't really have access to a lot of security skills. So when it comes to the technologies that we have, we're available to do the installations, and as I mentioned, they come as a managed service, particularly our alert and protect tiers. So those are the more sort of they're comprehensive. They provide comprehensive security for the website. But the light solution that I spoke about today requires no technical expertise. It takes 2 minutes to sign up. You basically put your URL in, and we just scan that URL. We send you a report on the security status of that scan. And if you need help in understanding it, we've got chat support built into the solution. We've got our support team available on email and telephone. So we're there to help. And then there may be other areas of security that you need assistance with and guidance with. We've got a wealth of documentation. Our team also has a lot of experience in helping organizations, probably very similar to yours, to get secure. So I'm fairly certain we'll be able to guide you quite quickly.
Fantastic. And then a common one that we've had is, will we be receiving this presentation as I'd like to use it internally?
Absolutely, yeah. Of course, we're going to share this with everybody. I should have said that at the beginning. Apologies. We'll share it with you all straight afterwards. And if you need help discussing internally, please call us. We're happy to jump on calls and answer questions.
Fantastic. So that's all that we've had through so far.
Super. Thanks, Kirsty. Well, I'm going to say thank you very much for joining us today, and we appreciate your time. If you've got any questions, please drop them through to us. We'd love to help, and we'll be sharing this all shortly. Thank you very much.